Noël and I did get a chance to talk before I came up to Canada to start shooting, and we mostly talked about the overall tone of the film and the character of Kate. And he had very specific ideas about how he wanted it to be shot and the pace of the film, since it's sort of a the characters are on the run for a bulk of the film, so he said he wanted it to have a good pace and sort of move along a little faster than his first film. And so I got a pretty good idea of what he was thinking in my mind, and I got really excited about the project. And then we started talking about the character specifically and sort of where her anger comes from. She almost has a problem with aggression. She has definitely has something bubbling up inside her pretty much at all times until something happens in the film that sort of unexpectedly calms her. And the film is really sort of has a slice of life feeling, like it's just something that really could happen, and I think it will probably feel quite real, and then it goes really dark just because of what's sort of inside of Kate that is revealed throughout the film. And it's not even really like very sort of outward. It's not really through the acting that you sort of see her darkness. It's more through her actions and what she actually does, and you kind of can't believe that she does them. She does the things she does.
So what did Noël talk to you exactly? How did he explain Kate to you? Who did he say she was?
I'm trying to remember now because it was a couple months ago.
When you read the script?
When I first read the script, I really liked the fact that it did feel like something that really could happen. So the acting would be, quite natural, and then I liked the challenge of playing a person who does have this anger inside them and sort of acts out and is a villain. She's basically an unexpected villain, so that was something very different for me that I was really excited about.
And how did you prepare to play her?
How did I prepare? Well, I was lucky enough to get to spend some time with a real policeman here in Quebec, and he, very meticulously sort of took me through my scenes and told me, what would make it look more realistic, and then I had to sort of tap into my own aggression, which it's buried pretty deep. I'm not a naturally angry or aggressive person, but I do a few things that do bring it up. If I play a sport, or if I do something rather competitive, or sometimes I'll work out. Like sometimes I'll do boxing when I work out, and so I went to a boxing gym and tried to sort of tap into something, and it was very helpful actually, because really more than anything it ended up being rehearsal for specific scenes that I had to do. So just through the practice of it, I felt more comfortable the more we did it.
So what do you think? So do you think anger is the biggest motivator behind all her behaviour, or what else motivates his character?
She, well, I do think sort of an anger problem is Kate's biggest motivator, as far as the actions that we see her, the things that she does in this film. And there is backstory with her parents, but it's not really spelled out, so it could be anything that motivates her. I think the scary and suspenseful element of the film is that you don't know. I mean, and it could be anyone who has these things within them and is capable of such things, and you might not even know why. So I think that creates a lot of tension throughout the movie, and I think it's more important what's not said than what is sort of said. It's not really like a message movie or anything like that. It's more sort of something that's meant to make you think.
And she lies about her father.
She also lies a lot. She lies about her father. She says that he's dead, and then we see her go home and he's sleeping on her couch, obviously not dead. And but we see that he's an alcoholic, and we see that he's sort of inappropriate with her because of his alcoholism, and that she's sort of repulsed, and so you feel like maybe there's something that has happened there, but again, it's not said exactly what goes on with her parents, but you definitely see her sort of act out toward them in different ways. And yeah, with her mom, there's a lot of tension there as well. I guess, you know, her mom is very critical, and Kate, I think, is, you know, very sensitive about that. She's very sensitive about a lot of things. So I think her solution is to shut her parents out so that she doesn't feel any sort of pain from their directions. And in that isolation, you know, she doesn't even have a lot of friends. I think she basically just isolates herself to the point where she's just her own, she just creates like a whirlpool of problems.
What motivates her to seduce Benoit?
I think that Kate and Benoit are two people who are sort of at a dissatisfied time in their lives, or just maybe they're bored, or maybe they just run into each other and feel attracted, and it's convenient, and you know, it's sort of like something that happens, that just sort of naturally happens in life. But I think she sort of spots someone that she might be able to control in Benoit, and she's big on control. She definitely wants to, you know, feel like she's an authority. You know, I think she really likes being a policewoman and likes sort of carrying that gun, and you know, she's probably got a bit of a, you know, she's new to the police force. She has something to prove. So yeah, when she meets Benoit, I think she just identifies him as a person who is going to sort of do what she says, and that's why he fits into her life.
So she doesn't seduce him to keep him quiet from telling the police force about her mistake?
Oh, well, I think they definitely get together because, first of all, she's embarrassed. She accidentally arrests Benoit, and she has to apologize, you know, take the handcuffs off him when she realizes she's got the wrong person. And so she's terribly embarrassed. I mean, she hates to be wrong. And, you know, she runs into him again and is basically trying to prove that she's a good person, she's a good cop. She basically overcompensates in a really big way.
And do you like Kate in any way?
I don't know. I don't feel like I personally am like Kate. I'm having to tap into sort of the areas of my personality that I can draw from, but there are areas that are not prominent things in my personality, so I really have to dig a little deeper than I'm used to, which is wonderful. It's part of the challenge. It's been so great.
And why does Kate keep the gun on her despite her better judgment?
When at the point when she is running away, or
no, when she tries to lock it in the thing, but it's not.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I guess at one point in the story, the box where she's supposed to keep her gun in the back of her cruiser is broken, so she can't leave it there safely. So she keeps it on her when she goes into the motel to see Benoit, and it's a big mistake. You're not supposed to have your gun on you when you're off duty, And so she does that, and I don't know. I mean, I think she does it just because she feels it would be safer with her than in the car, where someone else might be able to get to it if they somehow got into her car.
And then why does she invite Benoit to touch her gun, and knowing that it's illegal? And
I think she's just pretty confident that nothing, terrible is going to happen. I don't think she would have imagined that it would go off. I think she was just probably having fun showing him how to hold it because he's so scared of guns. So, probably just showing him, it's no big deal. She knows how to handle guns. But I guess she didn't take into account that he really didn't know how and really was scared of them to the point where he had like a reflex, like an impulsive reaction that made the gun go off.
Had you heard about Noël and Laurent before you started working with them?
No, I got to see on the trail of Igor Rizzi when I got the script, The Kate Logan Affair, so that's when I was introduced to both Noël and Laurent's work, and I really enjoyed that film. And then I saw Lemming, another one of Laurent's movies, and got to meet Noël, so that's how I was introduced to them.
And this is your first time shooting outside of the States? And how's that been like?
This is my first time shooting in Montreal, and it's been really nice. I mean, the crew's great, and it's a beautiful city to sort of wander around on my days off, so no, it's been great so far. It's great that the government funds movies here. We don't have that. It's really nice.
And were you looking at this point in your career for a different kind of role when you received this script? What attracted you to this project?
Yeah, I'm definitely at a stage where I'm looking for stories that I really get excited about and projects that I can sort of dig my teeth into. So this definitely fell into that category, and that's why I got excited about it. Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about the script was that Kate is basically the villain of the piece. She's very dark. It turns out in the end of the story, but you don't suspect her at all. So that's sort of why I thought, or why Noël thought I might be appropriate for it, because he wanted someone who looked very, unexpected, someone who looked very innocent and, nice, and someone that could be trusted, just from the exterior, and that's sort of the type of character I generally play, a very sweet, trustworthy, friendly person. So I was really excited about that because it's appropriate. I don't want to try to step into a role that doesn't make sense, to an audience. So that was really exciting to me. And what else? Wait, I was going to say something else about that, but I forget now. Maybe that was it. What else? It's fun to shoot here because I feel sort of out of my element, but it's kind of nice sometimes to feel, a bit apart from sort of the process, because you can really concentrate on what you're doing and kind of feel like you're in your own little world of the character, and there are so many things to observe at the same time, because there's so many breaks when filming. It's so stop and start with interruptions and things, and so there's so much to take in, in that downtime, being surrounded by a new environment, a different language that I don't speak, and sort of picking up little bits of that language as I go. There's so many things I didn't even know about Canada. It's odd, I was raised in the South in the States, in Texas, so I know much more about Mexico than I do about Canada, and now living in New York, I'm much closer. I feel like I should know so much more than I do, so it's been fun to kind of get to know the place.
What's it like working with Laurent?
It's great. I mean, I don't speak French.
Just say working with Laurent.
Okay. Working with Laurent is really fun. I think we get along pretty well, considering that I don't speak French and he doesn't speak a lot of English. So we're basically, you know, just we communicate with like facial expressions and gestures and, you know, the little bit of the language we don't speak that we have. So you know, it's kind of interesting because the two characters that we play don't know much about each other at all. I think they have like 2 conversations where they get to know each other a little bit, and you know, it's apparent that they like each other, and then they have this sort of brief affair before things go wrong. And but you know, the whole film takes place in a short amount of time, so the characters actually wouldn't know each other all that well. But I like working with them. It's been good so far.
And so Noël, he talked to you about the character. Did you do any rehearsals, or how did he prepare you once you came to Montreal?
We did a few days of rehearsals. We basically read through the scenes, which is what Noël likes to do, and just kind of make sure everybody's on the same page, which is exactly what I like to do. I don't really like to break the scenes down too much before you get on set, because then it can feel a bit choreographed. So it's better to sort of have a little bit of freshness, you know, when you're finally on set, but at least everybody's on the same page.
And you did the rehearsals with Laurent too?
Yeah, well, it was kind of like a table read, our rehearsal. We basically read through all of the scenes that Laurent and I have together, and sort of, you know, listened to the dialogue a little bit and made a few changes there, and talked about what might make sense with the action, with the arrest sequence, and some of the scenes on the road when we were running away.
And how did you work with the police? You saw a police person in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about that? You spent 2 days with the force, right?
No, not that much, but do you know his full name? You interviewed him, right? Roberto,
I can't remember that.
I wish I could say, but anyway. Yeah, yes, I got to go to a police station in Montreal and meet some female cops to kind of better wrap my head around what that experience is like, and got to hear some of their stories about how they prove themselves when they were first starting. And I got to talk to one woman who was sort of I don't know what you call it, like the captain of the whole station, and she was sort of like strikingly beautiful, but still, you know, you could tell she was tough and had that sort of you know, not that it's not a feminine quality, but it's like it's sort of a tough quality about her, you know, like you wouldn't mess with this person. An authority, you know, she had an authority about her, obviously. But so she told me some stories about, you know, starting out, because she was quite young. I think she was like 24, and she was the only woman in her unit, or whatever you call it. So there was a lot of pressure to prove herself, and basically, I guess how she did it, she outran her partner and caught someone who was running away, like down an alley. And when the partner caught up, you know, that was sort of, and she had the guy cuffed, that was her proof that she could handle it, you know, that she was faster than one of the guys. So I basically learned how important it is, you know, to feel that you know, this character Kate has something to prove, and you know, because she's just starting with this force in the movie for, I think she's been with them for 2 months or so not very long, and she definitely would have that air about her, and you know, real disappointment when, you know, she's teased by some of the other policemen or superiors.
Actually surprised that she goes so far to kill Benoit?
I think we haven't shot that scene yet, but I think that Kate should be a little surprised, because I think it's the first time she's ever killed anyone. I think she's definitely surprised. She's trying to figure out some way to handle the situation where she doesn't lose her job, and I think she might be a bit of an egomaniac, because I don't think she's that concerned about Benoit and what happens to his family. So I think that when she runs away from the motel with Benoit, and that whole trip they take is very revealing to her about her own nature, because I don't think she realized how sort of incompetent she would be to find a good solution, how not suited to the job she actually is, how resourceful she is as a criminal, how, how desperate she feels. I think that there's so many things that pop up for her that are new. And then when she actually commits the crime, I think that's new too, because I doubt that she, maybe she's a person who's had very dark thoughts and entertained the idea of committing such a crime, but I don't know if she ever thought that she would actually do it. Or maybe she did, and sort of some sense of of having this bravado, of carrying a gun and thinking that you can do things with it, that, if you had to. So, but I definitely don't think that she would have predicted that things would go the way they did. I mean, I think she really is trying to find another solution, and then just feels like she's found one solution, but the thing about Kate is that she is so dark because she has no conscience. She's really really dark because she commits this crime and then is sort of satisfied with the way that everything kind of falls into place, and the fact that she has no conscience kind of tells us that she's not right in the head. She might not even be aware of all these things that are being revealed to the audience about the character. She might not possess the ability to feel things the way a normally balanced person would feel them, and the weight of them, all these things that she discovers along the way. She might not feel those things normally, or be aware of them necessarily. Maybe it's just the audience that's aware of them. It's very messed up.
And you shot the scene where she talks to Benoit's wife, Valérie.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going through her head during that?
I think in the scene where Kate and Valerie meet at Kate's house, Kate knows that they're coming. I think the police has notified her that Valerie wants to meet her and get her side of the story. And so I think at that point, Kate is very panicked, but covering it up very well, as she knows how to do. She's very good at deception, and so she's basically, I think she's acting the part of the good cop who is a victim, and just sort of acts like she's doing it for the other victim, for Valerie, and she's being benevolent and offering her time at this difficult time for her, which is difficult, but not because she's a victim. And so they meet. I think she's very curious about Valerie, about Benoit's wife, and she's just trying to find a way to, I think, continue her side of the story and get out of having to reveal anything about what really happened. So I guess when Kate and Benoit start to run away from the motel, the gun has gone off in the motel, and then they are on the run. I think it's just a series of panic-induced decisions that Kate kind of goes with her first instinct, which is to come out on top. I think that's a typical cop thing, a mantra that is sort of drilled into a policeman's head. In training, you're supposed to always be in control of the situation, and you're always supposed to remain there no matter what happens. You find a way to remain there and make everyone feel your authority. So she's pretty much doing that at all times, but she's obviously not going about it in the way a good cop would. She takes that mantra and makes it her own in a, you know, a very inappropriate way, basically. It's her interpretation of that teaching, basically. So she's panicked, and she's, you know, trying to find a situation. She has Benoit in tow. She's trying to find a solution, and then, you know, certain things about her are revealed to the audience that you don't really have an explanation for. You don't know why she knows how to steal a car, how to hotwire it. She says, actually, yeah, we didn't even have the line anymore where she explains it. So, you know, some cops that I talked to said that they have seen so many stolen cars that they could probably figure it out. And then, you know, because I guess also in training, a policeman is taught sort of breaking and entering techniques, but that's for a building, not for a car. So it's not like they would necessarily know. Another policeman or women I talked to said they would have no clue. You know, most of them said they would have no knowledge of that. So that implies that Kate basically has some other past, like some other reason for knowing how to do this. Maybe she has a criminal past that she's, you know, been able to cover up before, or, you know, she does have, you know, people she knows who have been able to teach her such things, but we don't know. It's not explained, and I like that it's not explained, because the audience kind of has to guess, you know, and sort of fill in the blanks for themselves. That's a good question. It's hard to think of redeeming qualities that Kate has. Let's see. I might have to think for a second. Do you mind? So the question is, what are Kate's redeeming qualities? It's hard to think of her redeeming qualities sort of when you've seen the movie, because by the end of it, I don't think they're apparent. But I think that this is a person who has really fought with herself a lot, who really hates herself. So, you know, I don't think her redeeming qualities are very apparent even to herself. But she, I think, has fought a lot against some of the influences of her parents, and she's made her own life, and, you know, thinks of herself as a strong person and a self-sufficient person, a survivor, you know, an innovative person who can, you know, find solutions to a problem. But, you know, I think a lot of the things that she thinks she's good at, you know, they turn out to be, you know, weaknesses, I think, in the end, because of her incredible struggle with herself and with the things that other people think about her. She's very susceptible to feeling insecure when criticized. So I think that comes from her mom, and then she has a lot of issues with control, I think, when it comes to men, which comes from her dad. So I think, you know, if anything, her redeeming qualities are that she has tried. I think she has really fought with herself and with her parents, and she's at a point now where she's challenged. She's out of her element, and she just can't cope. I think, you know, she would probably be better off in a regimented place like the police force, but not in a position of authority, because she's not a good person to have in that position, obviously, and you know, she's not even aware of that until the end. But I think that's why the story is interesting, because it's kind of terrifying to think that, you know, how much we in our daily lives go along with sort of first impressions, and we'll really think that someone is a nice person just based on an exterior, or you know, I think it's important to question authority in general, to question what our government does, well, in the States, and you know, question, you know, what is going on around us, not to just accept the fact that we're subject to a system, but to be part of it and to really participate. And the other terrifying aspect of the story is that the police force and the legal system in a country is not necessarily questionable. Those are two things that are, they can make mandates. You are really subject to those things. So they're sort of offshoots of a government that you can question. That's a good question. It's hard to think of redeeming qualities that Kate has. Let's see. I might have to think for a second. Do you mind? So the question is, what are Kate's redeeming qualities? It's hard to think of her redeeming qualities sort of when you've seen the movie, because by the end of it, I don't think they're apparent. But I think that this is a person who has really fought with herself a lot, who really hates herself. So, I don't think her redeeming qualities are very apparent even to herself. But she, I think, has fought a lot against some of the influences of her parents, and she's made her own life, and, thinks of herself as a strong person and a self-sufficient person, a survivor, an innovative person who can, find solutions to a problem. But, I think a lot of the things that she thinks she's good at, they turn out to be, weaknesses, I think, in the end, because of her incredible struggle with herself and with the things that other people think about her. She's very susceptible to feeling insecure when criticized. So I think that comes from her mom. And then she has a lot of issues with control, I think, when it comes to men, which comes from her dad. So I think, if anything, her redeeming qualities are that she has tried. I think she has really fought with herself and with her parents, and she's at a point now where she's challenged. She's out of her element, and she just can't cope. I think, she would probably be better off in a regimented place like the police force, but not in a position of authority, because she's not a good person to have in that position, obviously, and she's not even aware of that until the end. But I think that's why the story is interesting, because it's kind of terrifying to think that, how much we in our daily lives go along with sort of first impressions, and we'll really think that someone is a nice person just based on an exterior, or I think it's important to question authority in general, to question what our government does, in the States, and question what is going on around us, not to just accept the fact that we're subject to a system, but to be part of it and to really participate. And the other terrifying aspect of the story is that the police force and the legal system in a country is not necessarily questionable. Those are two things that are, they can make mandates. You are really subject to those things. So they're sort of offshoots of a government that you can question. So if something or one person in either of those systems is really not well in the head, I mean, that's terrifying. That's really scary. So that's sort of the premise of this movie. It's almost like a very subtle thriller, because psychologically it's very tense the whole time. It's tense because just because a person has authority and has a gun and you are subject to them, that could be the making for a terrible outcome, or not, but you don't know. So I think it's scary. I don't know what I'm saying.
And what do you think of Benoit's character?
I think Benoit's character, the character of Benoit, I think Benoit is a pretty decent man. I think he is a family man. He might be a bit sort of over his job. He might be a bit bored in his life, or maybe just very content and sort of floating along. And he likes something about Kate. I think he likes, something about that arrest maybe triggers something in him that he, wants to explore. But she, something about her intrigues him for whatever reason, and so I don't know why his character, decides to have an affair, but she's very bossy. I don't think he's used to being bossed around. I don't think, that he would put himself in this situation normally. It's just like something that happens. But I think he's an overall, a really decent person, a good guy, and he just gets stuck in a bad situation. I thought it was interesting that Noël's first film also deals with the theme of sort of conscience and crime also, because Laurent played his hero in the first film On the Trail of Igor Rizzi, and you think he's going to go off and sort of do this criminal act, and he stops himself. He has a conscience, and his conscience is sort of the memory of his love, I think it was like his girlfriend or someone who died. So that memory sort of keeps him from going through with it. But my character in this film, it's again the same theme, but my character has no conscience. And so I think Noël was looking to do something a bit darker, but not obviously so. So it's, when he sort of sets up a shot and tells me what he wants in a scene, he's very to the point, which I like. I don't like discussing things too much, especially if it's a very sort of natural series of events that doesn't require a lot of embellishment. So we just basically agree on what the shot is, what's important, and what's most important to him. That we see her frustration, or that we see her move very deliberately, or there's usually one or two things that he really needs, and then I just try to add something else to give it some texture, but really concentrate on the most important things for the story. So it's really easy. We're pretty much on the same page, so that makes it a good experience.
And is there something, so what's the most challenging thing about playing her?
I think the most challenging thing about playing Kate is sort of revving all of that anger and aggression that she carries around. I know I've said it a couple of times, the anger, but that's really the basis for her action. She's like a person with an extremely bad temper who can't control herself. And also some, I think, faulty wiring in her brain. But this aggression is what drives her and what makes her decide to do the things she does. So I really try to feel that so that you don't wonder sort of where it comes from. I think you're supposed to wonder a little bit, but it should be apparent that something is off or something is boiling. So bringing that up, regularly is probably the most challenging part, but I think it's one of the most important parts too.
And is there a scene in particular where you really see and sense that anger?
Yeah, there are a few scenes where you see her sort of lash out. I think the first clue that something is not right is when you see her go home and you see her in her own space and her dad is sleeping there, and she sort of roughly kicks him out of her home. She's very cold with him. She sort of brushes her dog away, and you see that there's no real affection in her life. She's just come from this sort of affair that's starting and come home, and you see that her life is actually not what you might imagine, and then she gets very mad at herself. You see her sort of very angrily, like get down on herself. You know, she acts out in a way that people, you know, generally might not, even if they're in bad situations. A lot of people can just kind of cope the way Benoit does, but she doesn't have that ability. She would need a lot of structure to keep calm. I think that's what attracts her to the police force, you know, that there are such set rules where people can't behave in a certain way. She would almost need that to keep things under control. But she belongs on the other side of it, not as a cop.
A bit about the roles you've done in the past. Can you talk to me about what led you to be an actor?
Sure. I sort of stumbled into acting. I was in film school, and so I knew I was interested in filmmaking, definitely. But I thought I would be behind the camera because I'm not an exhibitionist by any means. I don't really seek, you know, being the center of attention, so I never would have imagined myself as an actor. But through modeling, which I had done since I was about 14, I had an agent in New York, and they sent me on a handful of auditions because a lot of models at the time were going on auditions, or just starting to at that time. And so I booked a TV show in that handful, and I moved to LA and did that first. It went on for 7 years, so by the time that ended, I really felt like this was my job. And but you know, for many years I didn't really feel like I had chosen it. It was definitely not a lifelong dream, and the show was a very challenging experience. It was not always fun. It was, you know, crazy schedule. So, I mean, even, you know, many years during the show, I wasn't 100% convinced, but I was lucky enough to have opportunities to go do other films and on my time off. And most of those were good experiences. Some were bad, but most were good. And so that was encouraging. You know, every good one I would do would kind of, you know, make me think differently about it. And so basically, as I've gone along, and mostly in the past couple years, I've discovered things I love about it, and the parts of it that are actually suited to my personality. So that's been a happy discovery, and yeah, I like it so much more. I know so much more about it now, and now I feel like I can look specifically for characters that I'm right for, just knowing myself better, and stories that I'm interested in telling. But what I've always loved about it is the art of it, not really the commercial success or the definitely not the celebrity of it. Just the process of, you know, many different artists coming together and creating a beautiful, interesting product. That's what I have always loved about it, even when I went to film school and was not sure what my participation in the process would be. But so then you think about, you know, how to make a living off it, and it becomes more of a commercial. You know, the jobs you do have to be commercial sometimes if you want to do this solely. So I was very lucky, you know, in retrospect, getting to work on my show on Gilmore Girls, and it gave me so much practice with so many things. I mean, with just memorizing lines, and just, you know, it makes everything about going out of town to shoot a movie. I know everything I need to do it, you know, and to stay, you know, keep my life balance at the same time while working, and everything on set, you know, I feel really confident there. So that is a huge, you know, blessing. So I feel better equipped now to sort of pick and choose, but I'm trying to be very strict with myself and just pick things that I really like and really respond to as far as material goes. And I'm very lucky to be able to do so for a little while, and just concentrate on that and sort of learn more and grow in different directions, and be able to play a little bit and see what how far I can stretch and kind of what different possibilities there are. So that's fun.
And other kinds of roles or sort of kinds of films you'd like to play in the future? Your theatre, or like what interests you now?
I would definitely like to try some theater. I don't think I'm ready for a musical yet, but I think a straight play would be a lot of fun. And you know, I'm not terribly picky about whether I'm working in film or television, because there's such great material on television now, but I think it'll be several years before I lock myself into a show again, because I'm really enjoying the freedom of being able to sort of bounce from one job to the next, and try different things. So as far as roles go, I've done a bit of sort of comedy mixed with drama, and I think that combination always tends to garner a bit of a light sort of performance as far as the material goes. So I would love to try something, you know, like Kate Logan, where it's just drama. There's no real comedy, unless it's just something, you know, natural and that would happen in life, you know, and really kind of go a bit deeper with that, because I'm a pretty serious person. I'm not, you know, bubbly as many of my characters have been, so, or, you know, necessarily comedic. So that would be really interesting. I mean, even working on the last episode of ER, it was sort of surreal because there's not an ounce of comedy in that show, really. Like, sometimes the doctors will have like a funny circumstance to deal with just to kind of lighten it up, but in my storyline there wasn't any of that, and it felt really good, because it was just, I felt like I was, you know, pretending to be someone who could be real, and that was really exciting, because I think my sensibility is very naturalistic. I'm not trained as a performer. I really just try to do something that could be real, that could be natural, you know, to someone's life. So yeah, you figure things out as you go. It's really satisfying to do this for a little while and kind of take little bits and pieces from each job you do and put the pieces together.